Morning, everybody. I thought that today would be a fun day, just a Sunday afternoon. Easter, actually. Happy Easter. I'm going to take a look at the classes and their subclasses and their multi-class options. I've had a few people request this, and I was kind of thinking about doing something like this anyway, so this works out well. So I will also show off the ability trees, well, for the first five tiers, power levels of abilities. That's also available in the beta. And we'll take a look at the passives that they've added. Most of the passives, I think, are pretty much common for all the classes, but there's a couple classes that have some unique passes added. Let's start with the Barbarian. So the Barbarian has, if you pick no subclass, and this is true for any class, you can just pick no subclass and have neither advantages nor disadvantages. There's a couple classes that don't have that option, but that's because their subclasses don't have inherent drawbacks, like druids and priests. I think paladins don't have any drawbacks anymore either. So we've got Berserker, which I think is really fun, because their frenzy grants tenacious and hardy. And on a side note, I really like how they have framed inspirations and afflictions as being keyword abilities, with three inspiration keyword abilities that are buffs for each stat. Like hardy is one of the constitution inspirations, tenacious is a might inspiration, and strong and fit are also might and constitution inspirations, but hardy is like the upgraded version of fit, and tenacious is the upgraded version of strong. And there's 3 tiers of inspiration for every stat, and then there's 3 tiers of afflictions for every stat, and they counter each other, and I think that's kind of cool. In fact, I'm kind of really digging how the game seems to throw up like a buff or a shield, which counters by removing said buff or shield something negative. So they get those upgrades and a big bonus in their hit to crit conversion, but they're confused while they're frenzied, so they could attack their friends, and just like any other frenzy effect, you can't see your health, and you take raw damage continuously while frenzied, which I don't know if that's normal for frenzy or if that's a berserker thing. It could just be a berserker thing. Corpse Eater, I haven't played with this yet, but I like the idea of it. A lot of these that I haven't played on or don't have an opinion on, I'm just going to go ahead and just put up the text like this so you guys can sort of look at it, and if I go through too quickly, my apologies. Feel free to pause and read it at your leisure. I'm not going to read every single one of these. We'd be here all day. I like the Mage Slayer in theory. I did try playing with one, and I noticed the spells that did hit me didn't seem to actually be reduced in effectiveness too much. It just could be luck, or lack of it there on my part. So here's the Barbarian skill tree. Of course, right now you're going to see Mage Slayer, because that's the kit that I have selected currently. But most of these skill trees look the same for everybody, with just 1 or 2 bonus icons for the subclass. So we've got Barbaric Yell, Frenzy, Barbaric Blow, that sort of thing. Barbaric Yell can be upgraded so that it can knock guys down, and it can or it can be upgraded to affect everybody around him and gain bonus engagement. Let's see. So the passives, and I'm not going to go every single ability, I guess. I'll just do this. How's that? You guys can just sort of pause it. Wild Sprint, Savage Defiance, Barbaric Smash and Crushing Blow, and Leap. Okay, so some of this stuff, it's going to be hard to know for sure. Like, obviously, Monastic Unarmed Training is added. It is new, because monks didn't have that to start with. I think every class can pick this. Every class can get Arms Bearer. Every class can pick up Weapon and Shield Style. This is a Barbarian thing, I know for sure. That's the Barbarian thing. Accurate Carnage is obviously Barbarian. 2-Weapon Style is added. 2-Handed Style has been added. And 1-Handed Style has been added. So these 1-handed, 2-handed, Weapon and Shield, and 2-weapon are, I think, added for every class except probably, I know Wizard doesn't have them. Maybe they're the only one that doesn't have them. We'll take a look and see. Bull's Will has been added. Combat Focus, everybody can pick this. And if you saw my earlier video, I really like this as an option for any character. One Stands Alone. I don't think this was in the beta before. I guess, man, I don't remember it, though. It seems pretty good. It could have been in there. Bloodlusts. That's pretty great, but that's not Bloody Slaughter. Bear's Fortitude has been added, and this is probably the reflex one. Yep. So everybody can also take plus 10 to either willpower or what's the other one? Willpower or fortitude or reflex, which is not a bad idea. But you know, I mean, you got to pick a bunch of different things. It's kind of tough to pick that. Tumbling. I think this is. I don't know if that's Barbarian or not. I guess we'll find out. Unflinching is almost for sure Barbarian. Tough. I've seen other classes get this at the same power level, so plus 2 max health per level. I don't think it's retroactive, but I never hit level 9 to see. And then you've got some other ones here. So that's the Barbarian tree. And if you were to, did I not pick? Yeah, I picked multiplayer or multiclass. So here's the multiclass selection for Barbarian. If you make a Barbarian and a Chanter, you have a Howler. With a Cipher, it's a Witch. With a Druid, you have a Tempest. With a Fighter, it's called a Brute. I'm a big fan of the Brute. Fighters and Barbarians are natural fits, and they just become Brutes. Ravager for Monk. Fanatic with Paladin. Shaman with Priest. Savage with Ranger. Marauder with Rogue. And Warlock with Wizard, which might be actually kind of a fun combination. Okay, so that's Barbarian. Chanter. Here's their. I don't play Chanters that much, so I don't know a lot about them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let these ride here for a bit for you to pause and look them over if you're interested, and then we'll look at the ability trees. Obviously, anything over here was already in the game, although maybe they've added a couple since, and there's quite a few things here. I kind of like how the Chanter's abilities upgrade from previous stuff. I like it when abilities upgrade. I don't want to have a giant bar full of action icons and things to spend my resource pools on. I want the things I've been using to get better, and this is how that happens. So let's see here. Well, it's going to be pretty easy to tell which ones of these are... well, they don't actually tell you the... Oh, wow. Okay, I get it. So these are the chants. Okay, so you have to pick some of these. But then there's also weapon set, and then you got the one-handed style, two-weapon style, two-handed. So these are gonna all be the same stuff as the Barbarian looks like. I'm gonna say. I like the icons on some of this stuff here. Actually, I like all the icons except for, I guess I'm ambivalent towards these generic ones, which might be how we can tell if it's just a typical passive that every class has. If it's got like just generic icon, looks like Tumbling is probably just a generic passive. I will go ahead and right click on all these in case you Chanters out there are curious as to what options there are for the first 9 levels of the game. 10 levels. Wow, what did that say? 30 point all damage shield for 10 seconds, friendly aura. Jeez, maybe I should look into playing a Chanter sometime. And then you've got Uncanny Luck. Yep, that was one we looked at. Tough. Yep. Rapid Casting. That was definitely not an option for the Barbarian. So spellcasters may actually get plus 10% action speed with spells. Reduces the time it takes to complete a spell's cast. That is pretty good. I like it. All right. So what are the subclasses, or what does the multiclass look like? Well, we know Barbarian and Chanter's Howler, but Spiritualist, Therouge, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go with that. Warcaller, Cantor, Herald, Celebrant, Wild Rhythimer, Wild Rhymer. Oh my God! Hey, listen, guys, it's early. Harbinger and Loremaster. Okay, moving right along. Ciphers. Again, a class I don't use too much. I will say, I tried using a Cipher last beta. I didn't find it particularly effective. However, in the patch notes, they've doubled how quickly your lash generates focus. So that was my big problem playing with the Cypher before, was it felt like the fight was like halfway over, and I still couldn't afford to use any of my abilities, or only use like one of the lower level ones. So getting doubled on your ability to generate focus, that's pretty cool. Plus, the way resource pools work right now, and a resource pool, by the way, if I haven't really talked about it too much before, the resource pool is what you're spending to do your abilities. For example, Barbaric Yell requires maybe the Barbarian doesn't actually have one. I thought they all had a resource pool. Rage maybe they take. So you generate whatever your resource pool is, Guile for rogues or Zeal for paladins. Or sorry, that's the problem. You don't generate it. You just have like 5 points, and you spend them on your abilities. So if a rogue has 5 points and it takes 1 point to, blinding strike somebody, or 2 points to blinding strike somebody, they can only do it that many times before they're out, and then they're out. Ciphers start with no focus or no resource pool, but they generate it. Hopefully rapidly enough they can use their abilities a couple times. So I think what I'd like to see is some way for all classes to get at least 1 or 2 points back in long fights. But there is also empowerment, which is the ability to empower a skill, or if you empower your character, you get some of your resource pool back. So that's probably the whole point of that. And you can get empower back by resting. Alright, anyway, that was an aside. So we've got Ascendants with extra max focus. And when they reach max focus, their power level and power focus costs go down. Power level goes up and reduces power focus costs. But then while they're not at maximum focus, they're doing less damage and generating less focus. So there's Beguilers and there's Soul Blades. And their ability tree, because the Ciphers do have some really kind of awesome abilities, I feel like. I should really try a Cypher now that they've got doubled the focus income. So, once again this is not one we've seen before, Lingering Echoes. This definitely Cypher only. So is that Penetrating Visions. Here's Arms Bearer and the monastic Training. Iron Will. That's better than the other ones. Cypher's going to have a bigger boost to that, apparently. Weapon and shield style. Looks like 2-weapon. Yep. That's all the same stuff. Hammering Thoughts. That's definitely a Cypher one. I like it, though. It's pretty good. Backlash is probably new. Fortitude, Reflex, and let me guess, Combat Focus, yes. I wish Combat Focus had a different icon than Iron Will. I do like the Iron Will's plus 15 for the Cypher. So, even when they're the same, there's a little bit of difference there. Greater Focus, Tumbling again, Rapid Casting again, that makes sense. Far Casting, that's new. Ooh, that's very powerful, looks like. Man, it'd be really tough to pick some passes over here, but also you want to pick these too, because they're your big spells for that level. That's... on a side note, I think it's important that you have hard choices to make. A lot of the choices in Pillars of Eternity 2's leveling up system feels to me like there's great choices, there's not bad choices, and there's not a lot of actually bad choices when you level up, but since there's some really powerful stuff, and some of the non-spellcasting classes like Barbarian, they only have a couple things to pick. And who's not going to take like Frenzy at some point. I mean, it's kind of the defining ability of the class as well, but I feel like there could be more things to pick from. The passives do go a long way to help that, because it'll make it feel like one Barbarian and another Barbarian, just not even with subclasses factoring in, will have a little more variety to their builds now, I think. Not as much as I think some people were hoping, but a lot more than they had in the previous beta, so not bad. Okay, oops. Fred, look at their multiclass. Whisper Treason. Okay, so with a Barbarian, which some of these, obviously, when you come from their direction, we know Barbarian's a witch and we know Changer's a spiritualist. But when you mix a Cipher with a Druid, you get Oracle. Fighters become Psyblades, which would be fun because you could actually do like a Devoted Fighter. We'll get to that in a second. Devoted Fighter is my favorite subclass. You only get to pick one weapon that you're specialized in, but you're devoted to that weapon, and you get a big bonus to like crit damage and penetration with it. And I think it's really kind of a great idea to mix and match Devoted with any other class. It's been very powerful whenever I've tried it. So we have Transcendent for Monk, Inquisitor for Paladin, Mystagogue for Priest, Seer for Ranger, Mindstalker for Rogue, and Hierophant for Wizard. So there you go. Okay, that's Cipher. Druid. Druids have been, like I said before, they've been changed, so they actually only have bonuses. They either become an Animus, where they get bonus spells per every power level, or they can be a Fury. That also learns spells per level. They do have a penalty. The Animus does not have a penalty. That's why there's no subclass. Sorry, there's no, quote, no subclass, unquote, option. Fury does have a drawback. They can't cast rejuvenation spells, which is a bummer because Druids have some pretty powerful healing spells. But they can become Stormblights instead of animal forms. They gain increased range and penetration on their non-rejuvenation spells. And killing an enemy while spirit shifted extends the duration of the shift. And then they learn Dancing Bolt, Burst of Summer Flame, some of the more powerful spells. Like if you're going to be like a elementalist damage-dealing druid, this would be a great pick. The opposite of that would be the Life Giver, which has a bonus to rejuvenation spells, but cannot cast summon spells. And after Spirit Shift, receives a penalty to the power level of their healing spells. So, and then Shifters focused on shifting. And I think, the Shifter can switch to any of the Spirit Shifting animals once each per combat, so you can become a wolf and then a bear. It seems kind of cool. I like Druids a lot. So, let's take a look at their... Oops, we didn't look at their skill tree, did we? Did I not get a chance to? You know what? I did. I just forgot to look at it. Let's look at Fury. Alright, so this is the Fury one. Like I said, there's always the subclass passive up there at level 0. Stormblight. Alright, so let's take a look here. We've got the usual Fast Runner and Arms Bearer. We've got the usual Weapon and Shield style, One-Handed style, Two-Weapon style. And then, of course, you've got the bonus to Wild Strike, Corrode, Burn, what was that, Frost? Or no, that was Shock, and this is Freeze. With weapons. When Spirit Shifted. So, there you go. Had to be Spirit Shifted to get that bonus. Bear's Fortitude, Bull's Will, Combat Focus, and Reflex. And then we've got extra penetration with Decay Acid attacks. That is for sure. See, I think they have just the generic increase, the character reflex for the generic passives, but they'll mention the name of the actual class. Oh no, I guess not. I was seeing the word decay and thought it was Druid. So yeah, never mind. Scratch that. That might not be true. These are definitely Druid though. Scion of Flame, Heart of... The Wizard has these too, I can tell you that because I've seen them. So they are unique to the Druid and Wizard. Possibly that's the only two classes that get these. Extra penetration with spells. Penetration, of course, being required to overcome the armor of your enemy and do full damage with the effect. Although, I will say on a side note, when you do a high enough penetration that you completely blow through your opponent's armor, you do bonus damage. Let's see. Extra healing done. Extra range again. Extra health. And extra action speed with spells. So Druids can get the same as Chanters. And probably Wizards too. I think we can safely assume Wizards get those passes as well. So Barbarians become Tempests. Chanters become Theruj. Ciphers become Oracles. Wardens for Fighters. Ascetic for Monk. Liberator for Paladin. Universalist for Priest. Beastmaster for Ranger. Pathfinder for Rogue. And Sorcerer for Wizard. Now, I will say, from what I've experimented with, and again, I'm not a big min-maxer. I'm not like really focusing on like what works best and what can really break the game's rules and mechanics. I think that stuff is interesting, but I'm just not built for it. However, I have tried probably a dozen different multi-class combinations in the last 2 betas, and I have yet to find a combination that doesn't work pretty damn well together. There's a lot of just inherent synergy. Even if you're not going for it, there's just some things that work well together. The only caveat to that is if you are, and this was tweeted by Josh Sawyer about a month ago or so, if you were to pick 2 classes like Druid and Priest, for example, and then pick kind of the same types of spells over and over again between the 2 of them, well, the problem you're going to run into there is if you pick a lot of healing spells for Priest and a lot of healing spells for Druid, you're just going to have a lot of different healing spells, but you won't have gotten to the higher power levels as early as your single class counterparts will have. So you're kind of diminishing the purpose of multiclassing, which is variety. I don't think that's really that bad of a deal, but it's something to bear in mind if you're thinking about multiclassing. Now, on the other hand, a Druid and a Priest is a great combination, in my opinion, if you're picking Fury, who doesn't actually have rejuvenation spells, but then you pick, like some great, powerful offensive spells, and then you pick Priest, and then pick yourself Restore. Now you've got all the benefits of a Fury Druid, none of the drawbacks, because your Priest side can cast healing spells. Pretty good, right? So let's see here. Then we got Beastmaster, Pathfinder, and Sorcerer. Okay, so let's look at Fighter, and we've got no subclass. Black Jacket has extra weapon slots and reduced recovery time when switching weapons, but they lose their constant recovery. Fighters have constant recovery, which just regenerates their health slowly over time throughout the fight. Here's the Devoted. We talked about that. Extra penetration and critical hits. They have penalties when they are not using their preferred weapon, though, because they're devoted to their one weapon, and they can never pick a second weapon. Kind of just the way it is. Unbroken. Extra engagement. Increased penetration. Engagement, by the way, is when you're fighting toe-to-toe with an enemy, and they decide just to leave. You get a disengagement-free attack on them. I don't even think there's an animation for it, because it just instantly hits for like a big bonus to damage and a big bonus to accuracy. And what they're saying with the Unbroken is you get an extra engagement. You can hold 2 people at the same time, and if any of them leave from the fight, you get an extra attack on them for free like normal, but it's at an increased penetration. And you gain Shield Mastery, which gives you extra armor when you're using a shield, so your guy is very, very tanky. Let's look at the Fighter class. We got the usual stuff here, and I guess I wasn't really looking at all these skills like I said I was going to, so if anyone has any questions about an individual class and wants to see like a specific class or a class combination with another class in multi-class, let me know. I'd be happy to put something together. For now, we're just mostly looking at the combinations and passives. Okay. Now, a lot of these are all the same because, except for combat name is Fighter only. Because the Fighter had a lot of these skills already. Like a lot of the skills we've been seeing other characters have were all Fighter passives before. Oh, wow, you could have an Unbroken with 3 engagement. Okay, so these are all the same. Combat focus. This is Fighter only. Resistance to an affliction type, by the way, means that if you were to be hit with that type, like a dexterity affliction, it's reduced in rank down. So, for example, I don't know if they show... Oh yeah, hobbled, immobilized, and paralyzed in sequence are Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 dexterity afflictions, like we talked about earlier. If you have this unstoppable perk, and you become immobilized, it downgrades automatically to hobbled because of your resistance. If you become hobbled, you shake it off completely and ignore it. So having resistance to an affliction type is pretty powerful. Let's see. Especially for a fighter who just doesn't want to ever be immobilized or paralyzed. That's pretty good. Tumbling, fearless. What's fearless? Resistance to resolve afflictions, which are terrified, frightened, and shaken. Weapon specializations, quick switch, tough, uncanny luck. Yeah, no, I keep on not remembering what that is. Superior deflection is clearly for fighters only. And here's something else. I know that it doesn't seem like +4 deflection is a lot, but it adds up very high. I put a bunch of points in resolve with a character who had like a shield and a bonus to deflection because of her shield and weapon style. I think it's this one right here. Her deflection was like 82 and like nothing could hit her. And if I got up to here and picked this as well, oh man. I mean, you can, if you really focus on deflection, you can be very tough to hit. So +4 or even like the +1 or 2 from a point or 2 of resolve. I mean, it seemed like a big deal, but it really adds up. Okay, so that's that. And then we'll take a look at the fighter multi-class. We have Brutes, of course, War Callers, Psyblade again, Wardens, Monks, Crusaders, Cleric with Priest. This is probably a pretty good combination, I imagine. Hunter, Swashbuckler. This is fun. I actually did have a lot of fun playing as a rogue trickster. We'll look at those in a bit. They have illusion magic inherently, who was devoted to a rapier. And it was really fun to like just jump behind a guy with like a teleport effect and stab him in the back. It's fun. Battle Mage. Alright. There we go. That's Fighter. Monk. We're going to look at the Hellwalkers. They begin with wounds and they gain might for every wound they have, which is really cool. But they take more damage for every wound they have as well. So they become your typical glass cannons, which can be really hard to manage in a fight. So you want to put them in armor, actually, which is sort of counterintuitive, but trust me, you want to put them in armor. Drug effects last longer. You generate wounds while receiving the bonus of the drugs, but then the crash from the drugs is worse. And then the Shattered Pillar gains wounds by melee weapon damage inflicted. Cannot gain wounds from damage received. Oh, so okay, I get it. Jeez. For a second there, I was like, what are you talking about there? Yeah, so they deal their wound. They gain wounds, of course, being how the monks power their spells. So like Ciphers, they actually create their own resource pools they fight. These guys would do it rather than being hit. They would do it by hitting something. And they gain more wounds as well. So, kind of a reversed monk. Let's take a look at their things. We got lesser wounds. That's definitely for them. Arms bearer, weapon, shield, 2 weapon. Graceful retreats. That's a monk. Well, not a monk, but we've only seen that a couple times so far. Long stride. I think that's monk only. Yep. I mean, if it says the word monk in the description, it's clearly going to be for that class. One-handed. Fortitude, will, soul mirror seems like it's definitely a monk thing. That's kind of cool. Chance to reflect range attacks. That's neat. Snake's reflex, combat focus again. Crucible of Suffering is clearly going to be monk only. I'll put that back up a little bit longer so you can pause it. That's basically kind of amazing. Monk gains insight through endurance. Temporary bonus to all 3 defensive stats whenever hostile effect expires. Okay, that's pretty good. I like it. Bull's Will. We looked at those already. Rooting Pain. Generate Shockwave. Yep, I remember that from the first game. Tumbling, of course. Tough. Uncanny Luck again. I'm not going to look at it again. Enervating Blows. This must be a monk thing. Yeah, monk's able to inflict weakness on the critical hits. So there you go. That is a look at the monk. Have we gotten past the halfway mark where I don't need to like show all of these anymore? I'll leave it up on the screen because I haven't done the math on that in my head. At some point we're gonna come across, I've done every one from one direction, so we will just go to Paladin real quick. I did report that bug, by the way, where when you come to this screen, it's all blank until you click off of it. Okay. Bleak Walkers gain Flame of Devotion, which is a skill you can pick. It's just that Bleak Walkers just get it as a free pick. It just makes you get a flaming attack that sickens guys and does extra damage. It's pretty awesome. Oh, I see. It becomes sickened because they're Bleak Walkers. That's extra cool. So, I see. Yeah, corrode damage and sickens. If you pick these guys, you gain land hands and a minor flame effect on the target when you land hands. We can shut off by like this. See how that works? Put that all in the UI there for you. Sworn enemy, gilded enmity, which brings the paladin to be imbued with the blessing of gold when they declare a sworn enemy, which gives them an armor rating until struck enough times for the gold to break. So here is that looks like. Normally, when you mark a target, it just gives you a bonus damage against the target until the target drops. But in this case, you actually gain armor rating bonus when you mark a target, which seems kind of cool to me. Flames of Devotion again, but this time, instead of sickening and doing corrosive damage like Bleak Walkers do, this Flame of Devotion heals your allies when you use it. And the Shield Bearers gain lay on hands, and if you have a shield equipped, you get extra engagement, so they're kind of the tanks of the Paladins. So let's take a look at their tree. Again, we got a lot of the same, well, actually Deep Faith, obviously, because it's an upgrade from Faith and Conviction. Plus 12 all defenses. Paladins get some pretty awesome bonuses. Let's see. Fast runner, weapon set, I bet. Weapon and shield. 2 weapon. These are going to all be... Well, not all of them, obviously. That's a Paladin specific one. That is a Paladin specific one, I think. No, maybe not. No, I don't think I've seen... Have we seen this one? Maybe I'm forgetting now, but I don't remember seeing too many of those if we've seen it at all. Okay. Divine Purpose is Paladin specific. Bears Fortitude, Bull's Will, Combat Focus, and Reflex. And then, of course, this. Paladin's melee attack. Oh, that's right. Aegis of Loyalty lets you hit your allies, and if you hit them, they lose intellect afflictions, which are charmed, confused, and dominated. That's how it worked in the last game, but they didn't have the nice keyword abilities. Let's see here. And we've got Mental Fortress, which is Paladin specific. Resistance to afflictions from intelligence. Pretty awesome. Inspired Path gives them extra zeal. This is pretty good, because like I was saying earlier, you got like 5 points of zeal, and like you want to land hands an extra time, but you're out of zeal. I think that the cost must not be in this screen. I don't know why. I think when you're actually like looking at them on the in the game, the cost is listed below the icon, so it's not part of the tooltip. But it does cost 1 or maybe 2 points of zeal to use, like lay on hands, for example. That's what I was talking about earlier. But having +1 zeal is a pretty big deal. It would give you an extra use of like a Flame Devotion. Oh, that says cost 1 zeal. There, it says it right there. Does not say it in the actual right click, but it does say it in the mouse over. 1 zeal for Sworn Enemy, 1 for Flame Devotion. There you go. And then I think that when you upgrade some of these, they might go up. Yeah, like this now cost Greater Lay on Hands is 2 zeal. So obviously having another point of zeal is pretty good. Clear-headed, resistance to perception, extra bonus with fire attacks, resistance to constitution, afflictions, righteous soul, immune to disease, uncanny luck, tough, and practiced healer, extra healing done, with like laying hands and such. Alright, that's Paladins, and then we will just go quickly look at here. Okay, there you go. Alright, Priest. Priests have their subclasses is which god that they follow. Which, of course, if this is your character, the main character, it's going to affect other things like dialogue options. So we've got here's the spell list that you get as a bonus spell, because what happens is you get a bonus spell list along this line right down here. So here's the bonus spell list for Barath, Eothas, Margarine, Skane, and then that's the text right there. There's a lot there to read. And the Wheel. Priest of Wheel. I'm going to learn the following spells. Boom. Okay, there you go. And let's take a look. I bet you we can see healing done. That makes sense. Extra range. That makes sense. Action speed. So yeah, the spellcasters are going to all get extra range, action speed, and then clerics get, or not clerics, priests seem to also get the extra healing done. This one, practice healer, like paladins. Okay, Spirit of Decay, So these guys will also get extra penetration options for their elemental spells. Some of the elemental spells. I don't see, like, for example, Frost listed here. Combat focus, Bull's Will. You know what those all are? Yep. Two-handed style. This is perfect arms bearer, unarmed training. Okay, that makes sense. So that's that, and then we'll look at priest real quick. Here's all their options. Itinerant. Okay. All right. Ranger. Rangers can have no subclass or ghost heart, which is cool. So, Rangers have a animal companion all the time. But if it dies, they go through bonded grief, and then, the animal companion just wakes up at the end of the fight like anybody else. But they do drop accuracy and other stats, and some of their like actual abilities require they have an animal. If you have a ghost heart, you have to summon your animal, but you'll never have to worry about like penalties when it like unsummons or if it dies. Also, it looks cool. It's like a ghost version of the animal that other classes have. So ghost hearts, they are immune to bonded grief. The animal companion is immune to engagement, so it can just run around the field and not worry about getting attacked. But they had to spend an action summoning their guy, and it only has like a duration of so long. I've been through many long engagements and lost it at the end before the fight's over. It just sort of runs out of duration. And they can't learn heal pet and revive pet and some other cool things. So sharpshooters are great because they're like rangers that are focused on range attacks, which a lot of people like to use their rangers for range attacks. They do have a slower recovery time, and they're easier to hit if they do get in melee. And then the Stalker, extra deflection armor rating. The Stalker and their companions suffer bonded grief when they're more than 7 meters from each other. So here's your melee ranger. Here's your guy who jumps into the fray with his companion and then fights alongside him. So we'll look at the preview tree for this. A lot of this stuff, of course, is for the companion of the ranger. I like this one. Actually, I like a lot of these. The ranger is really fun. I'm kind of a big fan of the ranger. Let's see. Marksman. It's definitely, obviously, if it's got a paw icon, it's going to be for the ranger. We got shot on the run, gunner. I feel like gunner's new. That must be something that rangers can get. Have we seen gunner? I'm surprised that we haven't seen it before now. I must have just missed it. I'm sure we went through it. But not everybody has it. So there are some passes that not everybody has. Predator Sense, Defensive Bond, Bull's Will, Combat Focus again, Fortitude, Tumbling, an upgraded Protective Companion that gives accuracy bonus when fighting an enemy threatened by the animal's companion. Let's see, Driving, Flying, Uncanny Luck, Tough, and Practice Healer. So there you go. That is the Ranger, and let's look at the Rangers. Okay, here we go. Scout, Ranger, and Rogue is a Scout. It's kind of an interesting combination. Okay. All right. Whoop. I went too far. Rogue. Only 3 more to go, or 2 more to go. Rogues are cool. They're very powerful, and they can do a lot of damage. But you had to make sure that they're protected. I know it's not a normal thing to think about, but I like to put my rogues in like at least medium armor because they're in the front line fighting guys. And I noticed if I don't have them anything heavier than like light armor, they just drop so fast. So assassins are great because their sneak attacks are even more potent than normal rogues, but they also take more damage from everything. I think it's like 10% more. Street fighters are deadly and very, very powerful if they are flanked or below half health. They get bonus to their crit damage if they're both flanked and bloodied. So that's pretty awesome. Their penalty is that when they're not flanked or bloodied, they actually are slower. Recovery, by the way, is the action that takes place after you've attacked. Like the time between rounds, so to speak. So if your recovery is slower, you're going to attack less often. Tricksters. They start with Dazzling Lights, which is this. It dazes enemies. It's a -5 to might, -4 to their penetration, and they cannot engage. So you can like open the fight up with that, and then they get a few more spells at 3, 5, 7, and 9. I don't think we know what they are past 5, but they do get Mirrored Image, creates duplicates themselves, and Confusion, which is very powerful. That's the Trickster. They do less sneak attack damage, but they're also designed to kind of stand in the back. So they're kind of like, I think this might be a great combination now that I'm thinking about it, with like a ranged ranger who's already going to stay in the back row peppering guys with arrows and also popping the occasional illusion spell. Let's look at their preview. Let's look at this. Okay, so we got Arms Bearer, Fast Runner, Backstab, Defensive Roll, 2-weapon style. This is pretty much all the same, except for, of course, some of the rogue-specific stuff. I'm not seeing anything too unusual. I like Riposte, it's pretty awesome. Bull's Will, Combat Focus again, Tumbling again. This must be a rogue ability. Persistent Distractions is a rogue ability. Deep Wounds is for rogues. Tough, Uncanny Luck. What is this exactly? 5% resistance. Is it just like straight up 5% less damage? 5% of hits converted to crits. This actually, now I'm looking at it, if this is 5% resistance to everything, that's pretty awesome. It would kind of help offset the assassin's inherent flaws too. Okay, so multi-class. Here we go. There's all the multi-class options. Spellblades for wizard. It's kind of a fun combination. Okay. Actually, while we're here, I guess we can just look at the wizard right now. So, I don't know, we can't do that, because then I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see what the wizard's multi-class options look like. So no subclass for wizard is just straight up, you can use every spell with no penalties or drawbacks, which is pretty great, because there's a lot of wizard spells. Conjurers gained Conjure Familiar, which was recently buffed in this new beta, and I only casted it once in the previous video, and it was really powerful. And I think when you cast it, you get a random familiar. So I don't know what all of the bonuses provided by the random familiar are, but the bird gives like a big bonus to a couple stats and +1 to all of your power levels, which means you're casting your spells as though you were a higher level character. Penalty: you can't cast Evocation or Illusion, and if you're not casting Conjuration, your recovery time's increased. That's kind of how it goes for every one of these. They get a bonus ability. In this case, if you're an enchanter, you gain free action once per encounter. If you were to be afflicted by something like hobbled or immobilized, you don't become afflicted by that once per combat. But you can't cast illusions or transmutation spells. But your enchanting spells are increased power level. Evoker, same deal, increased power level with evocation spells. This is the crazy one. I like this one, although I haven't actually seen it actually trip. Your evocation spells have a chance to double cast, reapplying their damage. That seems way more powerful than being immune to hobbled. And then you got penalty: lose access to spells from transmutation and conjuration, which could be a big deal, depending on the character you're trying to go for, I suppose. Then you have Illusionist, same deal. Although I like these guys, and actually I think this pairs really well with a Trickster rogue, or a melee rogue, or anyone really. You get hit, you instantly gain mirrored images, which is like a big deflection bonus, so you won't get hit again for a while after that. Transmuter, there you go. Gain Form of the Fearsome Brute, transforms you into an ogre. Oh wow, did I know this? Is this new? I don't remember seeing this before. While in this form, spells are disabled, but you are a badass. So then you can't enchant or evocation. So there you go. So let's take a look at the ability tree. Of course, all the spells, and then the passive for Evoker. And I'm seeing right away, because I don't think there were any passives here before for the wizard. I think with the priest as well, I think it was just this stuff. Spells. Snake's Reflex. So these are going to all be the stuff we've seen before. Extra penetration with elemental spells. 20% range with spells. Rapid casting. Uncanny Luck. and tough. I'm not seeing. Oh, here it is. I guess that's right here. There we go. Okay, so that's that, and I think one last thing is to take a look. Well, we should probably pick an evocation out. There you go. That is all of that. Okay, well, that took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take. Sorry if I droned on there. Hopefully that was what you guys were looking for, and you can use that to maybe plan out what your character is going to be when the game ships in a month and a week. Once again, thanks for watching. If you have questions about a specific class or have an idea for a build and want me to try it out, I don't mind. I'm not going to play the beta anymore because I just don't feel like I need to play it. I've submitted quite a few bug reports I've seen. A lot of the stuff that I think has been reported has actually already been fixed in the main build, so should be in pretty good shape when it comes out. So I think on that note, I will sign off, and thank you for watching once more. Have a good day.